Welcome to Peer Sequel Mile, David here, and for years Filmic Pro has been the de facto go-to for iPhone filmmakers. But now there's a young beast ready to challenge for the throne. This is BeastCam. Its UI looks more like a fighter jet than an advanced camera. And with a price of $14.99 and with features like file management, false colors, 150 megabits per second 4K bitrate, this thing definitely lives up to its name. It's a beast. 150 megabits per second. My Pro camera maxes out at 120 and Filmic Pro and Moment only go up to 100. And ProCam 7 lets you do 150, but when you do, you have to pay extra for it, and it insists that you close all other apps and restarts your iPhone, whereas BeastCam's just like, I do this all day, mate. But in terms of out-and-out features, BeastCam actually lags behind the competition. It doesn't have programmable focus pulling like on Filmic Pro, and it even misses out on some of the things that Moment has, like an RGB histogram, picture profiles, and a waveform. So the downside is it misses out on all the top-of-the-line bleeding-edge Pro features, but the upside is its image quality, reliability, and ease of use are second to none. With all of these lines and icons covering the viewfinder and all these numbers around the screen, it seems like BeastCam's going to be more complicated than a Concorde, but it's actually the most efficient shooting experience you'll have on an iPhone. You get trusty and familiar focus and exposure reticles, and a full complement of I/O are permanently and fully displayed underneath the viewfinder, which makes finding your settings and locking them in place an absolute breeze. I also really like how the settings that you've dialed in turn blue, so you can easily keep track of where you're up to. And keeping things snappy, you can also program these three little dots here to instantly jump to the settings that you use most often, which I appreciate, but to be honest, I never use. Instead, I prefer full presets. As I mentioned before, there's no Lumo waveform to help you keep track of how much dynamic range is in your scene, but what you do get to help you pick your settings are false colors, zebra stripes, and a live histogram, which in fairness is well more than enough for most people. But if you don't want to see any of this, you can just tap anywhere on the screen once, hide it all, and relax. Well, no time for that because we have to jump in to the settings. Usually the settings are where productivity comes to die, but with BeastCam, changing shooting options can be done in a couple of taps instead of having to cycle through menus or scroll through options. And in terms of the options themselves, you'll find some really useful things in here, like a non-destructive aspect ratio overlay, support for various external lenses like a depth of field adapter and Anamorphic, as well as support for various audio recording options, including external microphones. There's also two levels of stabilization, standard and cinematic. Now this cinematic stabilization is unlike anything I've ever seen before. It gives you gimbal-like results handheld. This thing is so powerful, so processor intensive. You can't use it on my iPhone XR above 30 frames per second, and my iPhone SE won't let you use it at all. And while it's undoubtedly impressive, it's so aggressive and so intrusive. It's like watching the world on a time delay, which I found jarring at first, but once I got used to it, it was great. And something else I really like is how you can lower the iPhone XR's screen brightness without compromising the exposure. And my iPhone XR works damn hard to bring you these reviews, I'll have you know, so anything I can do to save its battery I really appreciate, because the old girl just isn't what it used to be. And speaking of battery, I find these battery and storage indicators really useful, because when you are shooting at 150 megabits per second in 4K, you do need to keep an eye on both of those things. However, having said that, I haven't noticed my iPhone XR's battery drain any more than it would with other advanced camera apps. And that's a testament to just how stable and how reliable BeastCam is. There's not a million different modes here just drawing resources, causing my iPhone XR's RAM to max out, which leads to crashes, errors and freezes. In fact, I haven't had one single failure to record since I've been using BeastCam, even when my processor heavy screen recorder is running in the background, which as a reviewer, I absolutely adore that. Something else I've been loving as a filmmaker, and a reviewer is the file management function. Now, bear with me before you switch off, this isn't as boring as it sounds, because if you hate having to organize your files and find your clips, which is me every single video, then this is great, because it not only organizes your clips into events and scenes, but it also renames them, which for me, as someone who has to sift through dozens of clips and hours of video all the time, it's amazing. Let's switch gears and talk about still photographs, because BeastCam also has a stills mode, which makes this beast a hybrid, just like Indominus Rex from Jurassic World. You still have the focus and exposure reticles, you get manual controls, which is great, and you can shoot in RAW, and you have a lot of the same options and settings. But although on the surface this might seem like my perfect camera app with it being so efficient and all, but there's just something about the stills mode that I haven't enjoyed using as much as the video mode. First, it opens in video mode every single time, which I understand as video is its primary function, but it also always reverts back to JPEG whenever I launch it as well, which for me as a RAW shooter has caught me off guard a few times. Personally, if I was a developer, I would just double down on making BeastCam the best video experience that I possibly could, and I would completely remove the stills mode and replace it with something that all filmmakers use, right from people like me all the way up to the Hollywood elite, and that is time lapses. I mean, yes, technically I could just hit record and leave it for an hour or half an hour, however long I want to, and then speed it up in post later. But that's just not the same as having a dedicated intervalometer that's going to use the full resolution of the sensor. But not having a time-lapse mode, don't get me wrong, that's not a criticism, it's just an idea. In terms of out-and-out criticisms, there isn't anything really that I've come across that's hindered my videography. There is just one weird little thing, and it's how the focus and exposure reticles don't go to the edges of the screen. Even when you tap to remove the UI, the focus and exposure reticles still get stuck at this imaginary wall. They're just like, nope. It's not that big of a deal really, and you can get around it by using the other controls available, but I can see how it might hinder some shooters in some situations. So BeastCam then, I've really enjoyed using it. It's powerful, optimized, efficient, fast and stable, and I'm going to continue to use it as the Moment app has just crashed and shown errors just too many times for me to do any serious videography with it. I can't put a price on, I can't understate how important stability is to me. I know I go on and on and on about it in my app reviews, but as a YouTuber who is doing everything, I'm responsible for everything, composition, focus, setting, exposure, lighting, audio, everything. For BeastCam to give me one less thing to worry about, it's absolutely fantastic. And when it comes to Filmic Pro, I don't like the interface. It's as simple as that. As powerful and advanced as that app is, I just can't take to the user interface, so I don't want to use it. I would rather not have the extra features that it has and use BeastCam instead, because I like the experience better. And BeastCam is still only a pup, it's still only at version 1.9 at the time of recording, so I'm sure updates will come that are only going to make it even better. And that is my review of BeastCam. Thank you so much for watching, take care, stay curious, and Ozibuna. His name is a beast. To his sequel mile, David here, and for years Filmic Pro has been the de facto go-to 4K bitrate, file management,